Good evening, folks. Rod Fleming here. It's a cool evening here. I see my series about transgender and transsexualism is getting quite a lot of interest these days, so we're going to continue with it. I'm going to make an assumption here that quite a number of the people who look at these videos are actually men. And the reason they're looking at these videos is they are interested in the whole subject of transgender, specifically male to feminine transgender. In other words, they're attracted to trans women. This is really common. Transsexual, she-male, transgender porn, call it what you will, is an incredibly popular and lucrative area of pornography in terms of online porn and in terms of web searches. It's huge. It's a very, very big, profitable area. So there's a lot of men out there interested, sexually interested in trans women. So a lot of you, if you're like me, probably wonder what the hell's going on with you. Why is that your thing? And I think a lot of you, talking to you now, might find that quite difficult to deal with. And the fact is that if you're in the West, the way things are set up in the West, it doesn't help you a bit. It just isn't helpful. So let's have a look at who are the men who love ladyboys, who love transgenders, who love transsexuals, who love travestis. If you go to South America, they all call themselves travestis. These are a specific subset of all transgenders. Okay, it's a hugely broad church, and there's a load. It's basically anything that's non-gender, non-conforming these days is claimed to be transgender, which is nonsense. But the women, the trans women who get the most interest by a long way are what are called pre-operative or non-operative trans women, right? They look like women, but they have penises. They are chicks with dicks. Okay, that is what men are attracted to. It is. So that's quite interesting, you know. So how does this come about? Scientifically, and I wish these guys would come up with nicer words, but it's not my fault. I'm just telling you. Scientifically, these individuals, that is, people who look like women, but were born male and they have penises, are called gynandromorphs, right? Or GAMs for short. Which, if you're Scottish, is quite funny because a gam is a blowjob, but never mind. GAMs for short. And gynandromorph means men in the form of women. Right? Now, a lot of people were going to find that a little bit like, really? But you have to accept they were born male, right? They just were. And you can't change your sex. You can change the way you look and the way you behave, and you can change your gender. Yes, of course, you can have a different apparent gender from the one that you perhaps might be expected from your birth sex, but you can't change your sex. If you have XY chromosomes, you're male, and if you have XX chromosomes, you're female. It's that simple. Right? There are not any ways around this, and anybody who tells you there are ways around this is lying to you. It's that simple. So, gynandromorphs. Which means that the word for you, the man who is attracted to these, is gynandromorphophilic. And like I told you, these names are GAMPs. We're just going to call you trans-attracted, okay? Just to make it all easy, trans-attracted and transsexuals, right? Just let's keep it easy. The people we're talking about as your objects of, targets of sexual interest they live all their lives as women. It's not like, you know, occasional cross-dressers, although that does attract me. These ones will be living as women all the time. They'll have body augmentations. You know, they'll usually certainly be taking hormones. If they're the HSTS type, they're probably very feminine anyway. They're very small, light, petite, naturally strongly attracted to men. I mean, they really want male partners. They have kind of feminine bodies and faces anyway because they're neotenous. They retain their youthful features. And of course, if you take even fairly small doses of hormones and you're like that, then you can be pretty convincing as a girl, you know. And if you come from an ethnic stock where males are not particularly masculine looking, for example, in Southeast Asia or in parts of the Americas, then you know, these girls are very, very attractive, I mean, and very passable, very beautiful. But let's be quite honest, you're attracted to them not because they're girls, but because they're girls with a penis. Okay, they're a girl with something else. You're attracted to trannies. Okay, you're trans attracted. There has actually, incredibly enough, been some work done on this at Northwestern University, led by a researcher called Sue, and I'm going to write it down because I don't want to embarrass him by trying to say a Chinese name that I can't really say properly. And that's in Mike Bailey's department. Mike Bailey is kind of the motivator, I guess, behind this. They did random sampling of men, put adverts in newspapers, brought in a whole bunch of guys, tested them using a little device that they put around your penis, and then they show you pictures, and if you get turned on, then your cock gets bigger without you realising it, and you can measure that, you know. And we're talking about the equivalent of maybe 10 millilitres of extra blood in your penis when you see something that's hot. I mean, we're not talking about getting a great big stiffy. It's just a little tiny little increase in size, which you can't actually see, but you can measure with this little thing that's really like a strain gauge, you know. So they tested some guys, and what did they find? Well, this is interesting. You will recall that there are two different types of male to feminine transsexual. Homosexual transsexuals and autogynephiles. Okay? Interestingly enough, there are at least two different types of men attracted to them. And the first type, which is where it's interesting, are themselves autogynephilic. Right? So a lot of the men who are out there who are attracted to trans women share the same psychological condition as they do. Right? They're attracted to the idea of being women themselves. I've spoken to an awful lot of people about this over the years, and including quite a number of transsexual sex workers and you know, prostitutes basically. And I've always been struck by how many of them will openly tell you that they keep a wardrobe of extra large women's clothing so that their clients can be dressed up as women, you know. If you go online and have a look around the various sex research, is great fun because you get to look at all these hot scenes, you know. If you go online and have a look around, you'll find there's a bunch of guys in Thailand, Pattaya, who have, I don't know how many scenes with ladyboys over the years, and one of them likes to dress up as a woman when he does it. Wears a wig and he puts on tights and things like that. And he's not over the top, and definitely a very masculine looking guy, but it's clear that he enjoys this. He's not just doing this because it is, you know, fun for a sexy video. He likes it. So that is one thing that could be happening here. Now, what is interesting is that I remember talking to a black sex worker in the United States, and it was an online conversation, and she said that there's an old saying in amongst the group that she knew best, that the difference between a tranny chaser like that, a person who liked trannies and liked to dress up as a girl when he did it, and becoming out as a trans woman, was 2 years. So once they start having sex as a woman, dressing up as a woman to do this, they've taken it out of the secrecy of their homes, and this woman said, well, you give them 2 years, and the next thing you'll do, you'll find them walking down the street, they're all dressed as a girl, and they've transitioned. So that's worth watching. If you are one of these guys who is autogynephilic and you like to, it turns you on to be dressed up as a girl when you have sex, or it turns you on to be penetrated, then you might be autogynephilic. And if you are autogynephilic, then you need to be careful, because it's actually an incredibly debilitating and difficult condition to deal with. And some people think that I am hostile towards autogynephiles. I'm not. I'm hostile towards the position that some of their political activists take. To have autogynephilia at such a level, you can't control it. And as I've told you before, there's loads of different kinds. It must be awful. It must be very, very difficult to deal with. And I have great sympathy, huge sympathy, for the people who find themselves in that position. So if you are a man, and you are finding yourself either using she-male porn, and you're enjoying the idea of dressing up while you do it, or you're meeting transsexual sex workers and you like to get dressed up, then you need to consider this very carefully, because what you're doing is going to make your condition worse, and you are more likely to end up having to transition, which could mean the end of your career, the end of your family, and possibly even the end of your life. So please be careful. Now, the group at Northwestern doing this research didn't make too much comment about the group of men that they were testing who were not autogynephilic. They were able to say that they weren't homosexual. The measure they're using here is, are these men attracted to masculinity, to masculine males? And none of them, very small number of men who are attracted to trans women, to transsexuals, are gay in that sense at all. It's very, very rare. Gay men, and talking anecdotally, talking to, oh gosh, hundreds of gay men about this over the years. No, I've only ever met one who expressed an interest for trans women, and he was a particularly honest kind of guy, whom I liked a lot. He was a very nice man and a very open person. He also liked young boys, not illegally young, but only just legal age, and that is quite interesting. We'll come to why in a minute. But all of the rest of the gay men I spoke to, no, they are absolutely not interested in trans women at all. Didn't want to know about it. And the reason is, of course, because they see themselves as wanting to be the feminine role player in a relationship with a straight guy, right? So they're attracted to masculine men. They're not attracted to women. If they were attracted to women, they'd be straight. So that idea that men who are attracted to trans women are homosexual is just not true. It doesn't work. We have seen that some of them are definitely autogynephilic. Autogynephiles are not homosexual either. Just get that straight. This is a thing that happens inside their own head where they're attracted to themselves as women. But they're still attracted to women. You have to be gynephilic, that is, attracted to women, in order to be autogynephilic, which is to be attracted to yourself as a woman. Basic logic, So who are this other group? Now, I have an opinion about this, and it is only an opinion, but I have spoken to a lot of people, and remember, I am myself trans attracted. I'm a gynandromorphophilic, and I don't make any bones about it. I like trannies, a lot, and my preferred sexual partner would be, given a choice, probably I'd go for the tranny. Yeah, any day, which is the way it is. I like women too, but given equal hotness, I'll take the one with a dick. So I know what's going on in your heads here. I personally think that what you're displaying is a form of bisexualism. Bisexualism is normally taken. It's a very strange concept here, because you get bisexualism and pansexualism, and it's like, wait a minute, this is kind of odd, Bisexualism, in the sense that it's generally meant, is a person who is attracted to both masculinity and femininity. Okay, that's fairly straightforward. We usually take that to mean that sometimes the person will be attracted to men, and sometimes the person will be attracted to women. And depending on the extent how bisexual they are, it might be that they're equally attracted, or there are bisexual men out there who have never been with a man, they just find them attractive. Because they're not strongly enough to do anything about it, so, and they get the sexual reward that they seek from relationships with women. They don't need to do anything about it. So we tend to have this idea that it's about a kind of serial arrangement. That today I like John, tomorrow I might like Joan, if you understand what I mean. I think that those non-autogynephilic men who are attracted to transsexuals, and I would say all of them, this is pre-ops, remember, chicks with dicks, gams, gynandromorphs, that's the ones who've got the boobs and the soft skin, the pretty face, the nice teeth and the cock. I think they are also bisexual. And I think what's happening is that they're attracted to the male organ, the penis, and the feminine organs, or feminine appeal of the breasts, the skin, the mannerisms, the way they behave, and all that sort of thing. So it's like bisexualism, instead of being serial, you know, like one partner John, one partner Joan, one partner, you know, Frank, one partner Frances, it's, we get it all in one go. What attracts us is that it's all wrapped together in one bundle. Okay? You get the best of, and it's often said, you know, if you go on sites or you talk to people who enjoy this, they'll say, what's the best of both worlds. Now, these men are very rarely, by the way, seek to be penetrated. They nearly always like to penetrate their partners. In my experience, at least, talking to men, the men who like to be penetrated are usually autogynephilic. They're enjoying the sex as a woman thing. These bisexual men, it seems quite rare. It's very difficult when you're talking to men, interviewing men, because they're not always honest, especially about a delicate subject like this. You know, they often keep things that they think might cause them social rejection secret, because men are incredibly sensitive to peer pressure. Incredibly. It's a real major thing for men. So they may not be admitting exactly what's going on in their minds, but it does appear to be that they're not really interested in the girl's dick as an organ to penetrate them. It's almost like it's a thing that's of beauty. It's a thing of sex. It's apparently sexually attractive, which is really interesting. I mean, how do you get that way? And trust me, if you're like me, if you are one of us, then you've spent an awful lot of time thinking about this, going, how did I get this? And there are a number of possible reasons. One, which certainly applies to me, and I've heard it from others, is that you grew up in a family where there were no girls. Right? And if you're my age, and I guess often men quite a lot younger, if you lived in a family with, grew up in a family with no girls in it, and there was no internet, so you know you can hardly go on the internet now without seeing some pussy, for goodness sake, you might well not know that girls don't have penises. And that's a very common thing. I actually thought I was completely alone in this until I started reading into it, and then suddenly, oh wait a minute, Freud talked about it. It was talked about by the Greeks. Camille Paglia, she talks about it. Oh right, well, loads of men have this, that they, when they're children, they think that girls have penises, but they're hiding them. Okay, and they may well, as they approach puberty and they start to be sexually aroused by women, they might well draw. You know, they're imagining girls. You know, these sort of proto-sexual imaginings, but the girls they're imagining have penises. And if they draw girls, quite often they'll actually draw them with a dick. You know, imagining what a girl looks like naked, and you'll see a dick. And you know, and I did that. And I think most men who are like this did that. So that's one way that this could happen. And there are probably others. And of course, if you are like that, then you spend a great part of your life going, why are these girls missing something? You know, and then you meet a real preoperative transsexual and you go, aha. Aha. And trust me, that's it. You're there. You've just gone, I found her. And you will stay with it. You will. Trust me. So that's some things to think about if you are attracted to trans women. It's not a bad thing. Don't worry about it. Don't lose sleep over it. And be honest. I mean, if you are in a relationship with a woman, she might be really shocked by this, but you're going to have to just explain it as best you can. And be honest. Honesty is always the best policy. Always. About everything. Just be open and say, this is what's going on. I hope you can deal with it, but if you can't, we're going to have to sort it out, you know, at least amicably. If I would go back to that point I made earlier, if you're autogynephilic, if you're enjoying getting dressed up as a woman, being penetrated by strap-on or by the girl with her own penis, honestly, be so careful. Really think about what's going on here. Now, there's no easy way to stop or slow the onset of autogynephilia that I know of, and I've spoken to a lot of people. There are drug therapies, but they're massively, you know, they're going to change the way you are. Yeah, I think that for a lot of men you can manage it, so please read all you can. Just do that. Please get yourself some information, and real information. Don't listen to all this nonsense about, oh, they're just, you know, these sites where it's like, oh, well, you're obviously just a woman inside. It's absolute shit, you know. It's just a lie. Anyway, go on my site, rodfleming.com, and go to the links page. You'll find an awful lot of papers there, including the ones I'm talking about here, and I'll put the references to the papers in the info box up there. If you have any questions, please ask me, and if I can't immediately answer them, I'll point you in the direction of a resource where you will get some kind of information. Okay, so be safe, you know, and don't worry about it. It's no big deal. It's just you're like a different kind of girl.